As you know, I had the honor of going to Haiti, and it was something that really was a transformative experience for me. A few facts about Trinity Hope. Trinity Hope is a group that I went with, that is feeding these children. It started from just a small group of people that went down to a school in Haiti and realized that the children were listless and they were malnourished, and the fact is they didn't get enough food to eat. So they said, well, we're going to feed this one school. And then they said, we're going to feed another school and another school. And it just built and built. And they're feeding children all over the country of Haiti. The administrators are volunteer. So there's no huge salary, there's no big office. In fact, the office is in a large room in someone's house in Middle Tennessee. And the rest of the group, they are a small local staff in Haiti. They are feeding program administrators, and their job is to go around and make sure that the food is being distributed properly, that it's getting what they need, and that it's being properly run. And then the food is all locally sourced. So they buy their food from local vendors. So it's not the question of food rotting on the docks or warlords getting it or some of the things that affect so many other areas. And they're very, very frugal. They fight for the very lowest possible cost that they can get. I witnessed some of the haggling of the administrator that he did with a local vendor in Jeremy. And they make sure as much money goes toward the children as possible. Now, the money stays in the Haitian economy. That's a good thing because it's an economy that's desperate for cash. Now, all these things come together, and they're able to feed 18,000 children every school day. Now, that's an important thing, that's every school day. But there are days that the children are not in school, and many times they don't get food then. So, a little bit about Haiti. It's a tough place. It's the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere, with $300 million for their annual budget. Now that's less than about a third of what we spend as a city on our schools alone, and that's what they've got for everything for the entire country of Haiti. So there's just nothing there. Half of the people, more than half of the people are illiterate, and even less than that go to school on a regular basis, and most of them quit after the 6th grade. So it's pretty tough to get ahead. 20% are in public schools, and the rest are private schools. And most of the public schools are in the population centers like Port-au-Prince, and then in the outlying areas where you're kind of on your own, and that's where the Trinity Hope schools, or the schools that Trinity Hope supports, is that they are private Christian schools, and but it still takes money to go there. And if you don't have any money, you don't have enough money maybe to send all your children, so you have to pick one. So this one child is the hope of the family. Now, it's decades away from recovery. It is so bad down there, certainly in the population centers. In outlying areas, well, they're recovering from the hurricanes and droughts and all the other things. But in the population centers in Port-au-Prince, it's going to be a couple of generations before it is back to any point of solvency. You sent me off. This was a wonderful day. This is a picture that was taken right out front, and it was the communion, it was the blessing, and it gave me a tremendous send-off, and I was so very grateful for it. Now, this is where you sent me to. This is Haiti, right there. We took off from Miami, but you see, it's not really that far at all from the U.S. in terms of distance. But in terms of culture, in terms of what we can accomplish as a country, in terms of the struggle of life, it's absolutely a world away. Now this is the group we went with. This is Kim, this is Brian, husband and wife team, and this Keith Logan. They came, they musicians, they entertained, they sang songs. Keith is the administrator of the program, and talk about trying to serve others. He sold all of his businesses in Tennessee. He owned a chain of Sprint phone stores across the state of Tennessee. He sold them where he'd have money to devote full time to this program. And he's a young guy. He's younger than me, which doesn't make him young, but it still makes him, he's a young guy. This is the airplane. It's supposed to take us to Port-au-Prince at a certain time from Miami. But we had a mechanical delay. We had to switch planes, which means that we were up in the air later than we really wanted to be. And of course, this is where we're going, Port-au-Prince on this map, okay? But the thing is that Keith said, we'll be fine as long as we don't get into Port-au-Prince after dark. Guess what? We got into Port-au-Prince after dark. Now, Port-au-Prince is one of the most violent places on the face of the earth. So say the State Department. It's a reputation that's well earned. When we landed, we went down a concourse, and it was right next to the old concourse. It was a new modern concourse that was built next to a concourse that had crumbled to the ground. They didn't have the money to drag away the old bricks and things, so they just left it there. We got through customs. We go toward a blinding light that was shining in our eyes. People reaching out from the darkness, wanting to help us with our bags, but actually they wanted to help us to their bags. We get to the end of this blinding light concourse, and there are 3 people that are employees of Trinity Hope. All of them are wearing sidearms. They say, we're in danger. We've got to get in the truck right now. We throw all the stuff into the back of an avalanche type truck. We get to the front. We go past guards that have riot gear on, bulletproof vest, carrying M16s. We go past them and we set off into the Port-au-Prince night. Now, because there's no money to repair street lights, there's just street lights that are on every once in a while. People are running across the street. 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds are running across the street at 10, 11 o'clock at night. We run into a rah-rah, which is a Haitian gang, basically out looking for another Haitian gang where they can murder each other. Murders happen every day, and many of them, because it's so frequent, they go unreported. So all this to say, it was an adventuresome ride from the airport to our hotel of the Ideal Villa. A gate slides open as soon as we honk the horn, and an armed guard opens up the gate, lets us in, and Keith says, welcome to Haiti. So this is where we were, okay? You can't really see the detail all that much, but it doesn't look that bad. It looks tropical. And on the inside of the hotel, it was nice furniture, had a nice swimming pool, but the thing about Haiti, there's 2 worlds. On the other side of that fence, on the other side of the barbed wire, the razor wire, is just destruction. Where this building across the street just crumbled. The building next to us just crumbled. The only people that can afford to stay at this hotel are relief workers, Red Cross workers, UN, various other people like ourselves, because it cost about 3 months' wages for the average Haitian to stay in this hotel. After the relief workers come and go, they make sure that they shut the gate, and the gate is guarded by this man. His friend met us when we opened up the gate, and it's a well-worn shotgun, and it's made for close order combat. Haiti had an earthquake, that's no secret, and it changed bad to really, really awful. But on the other side of that is a church. The Christian churches are alive and well throughout the country of Haiti. Now this is de Bonbonnière. It's a Lutheran church, and it's a lot like ours. They set up, they sing, they pray, they have a preacher, they have a praise band, and they have families. Families that come to worship God, families that come to be together. And they live in a desperate situation that you'll see in a little bit, not far at all from there. The children are so incredibly beautiful to have all this hardship and still have the joy of being children. You see, they like to mug for the camera, playing around, just like any kid, and just like our church, we've got a choir. Like Prescott, it's a spirit-filled place, and we were made to feel welcome at every school, every church that we went to. There's our group as we set off. Before we go off to our first place of Jacmel, we went through a tent city. Now, this tent city occupies, I don't know how many acres, hundreds and hundreds of acres, and there's where people have set up to live right after the earthquake because all the homes were destroyed. And there's no credit, there's no ability to borrow money to build new houses. So you make do with what you have. They just recently got purified drinking water, which is a long step from where they were before. And also there are porta-johns that are set up along the perimeter of the camp. This is going through the camp. A lot of roads like this are in Haiti. We had a four-wheel drive and we used it a good deal. You see, it's just very crude structures, no electricity, no gas, no water, no utilities of any kind. Garbage just piles up on the street and stays there for years. That's just the way it is. Now, our next journey, or that day, was to go to Jacmel, from Port-au-Prince, down along the coast, over the mountains, to Jacmel. To do that, we had to first get out of Port-au-Prince. And these were our guards. This is Lothon and Noel. And both of them were armed. Lothon was there that night, and Noel works for the Haitian military. He was picking up a little bit of job on the side. Now this is right across from the presidential palace. And it's a tent city that's been there ever since, even before the earthquake. And you see the sign that says basically, wash your hands with soap. That's just not to be clean. That's where you don't get cholera, because a cholera epidemic and other diseases are cropping up. They're rampant. Now, after the earthquake, we went by. This is the presidential palace in the background. And it looks pretty, but then you see something that's kind of wrong. And it's just destroyed. It's rubble. I can't imagine the White House or the Capitol looking like this 2 years after it happened. But that's the way it is in Haiti. A few dump trucks were going around the circle, but hauling things off, but most likely it will never be repaired because there's just simply not the money to do it. There's garbage everywhere. Garbage lining the streets, garbage on the side of the roads. People live right there, and it's just sewage and funk and nastiness. And unfortunately, it's even a playground for children. And it's all over. Now, the UN has a presence there, and some say they keep a sense of order, but a lot of Haitians don't really like them all that much because some Nepalese UN were responsible for causing another outbreak of cholera because they didn't dispose of their waste properly, and they made people sick and denied it, and so they've got a bad rap. Hence, they spent a lot of time back behind iron gates, and they traveled on armored personnel carriers. Now, the road to Jacmel is an interesting road. One thing we find out, there's a right lane, a left lane, and a center lane. And the center lane is, when you're about to enter the center lane, you hit your horn as you go around a blind corner in the middle of the road. And then as you hit that corner, you wonder what's going to be around the corner to greet you, and maybe it's a dump truck, maybe it's a scooter. It just adds to the adventure and excitement of being on the Haitian highway. This, by the way, was built, the Haitian highway, the national highway, was built during the time of the U.S. occupation by the Marines, and it was in conscripted labor. So they needed a work crew, and the U.S. Marines would go into a local farm and bring them on. And if they didn't do it, well, then they wound up dead. So we've got a little bit of a hard edge in the history of Haiti that we're trying to overcome. This is a tap-tap. This riding in the four-wheeler was a lot better, I think, than riding on that. I'm not sure how why they don't fall off. Perhaps they do. It's called a tap-tap. You get up on the side, you tap on the side of it, they stop, you get on, you ride for as long as you've got money, and you get off. Now, it's a beautiful place. This is going over the mountain range, this there, and upon first blush, it looks pretty nice. I think it was a beautiful place, even on the second one. But you look a little bit closer, and you see that there are terraced hillsides. And from a distance, I said, well, they're trying to grow things. Unfortunately, what that looks like close up is just soil where there is no topsoil, because of deforestation. They've cut down all the trees for either firewood to burn as charcoal, as fuel, or in foreign investments to try to mine the timber that's taken away from the people. I mean, the Haitian people have had things taken away from them for centuries. Now, this group here, all right, this is a wonderful family, and I'm sorry you can't see it very well, but this is the mother, and these are all her children, and they live in 2 rooms, or 2 small rooms, sleep on concrete floors, and are pretty happy. Now, this young lady, Angela, I think is her name, she had quite a story to tell us.
What is it like? How would you describe being really, really hungry and knowing that you have no food to eat?
Comment sens-tu lorsqu'au grand goût pas rien pour manger? Sometimes I have stomach ache and I can't see well.
You can't see well because you're so hungry.
Yeah, but quando é tudo parce que ou pas manger.
Oui.
Yes.
I just couldn't imagine that when I first heard it. But she's being fed now through the Trinity Hope program, and she's doing great. And I believe she is the only child that's going to school because that's all that family can afford. The woman's working as a maid and is doing well and happy to have a house with electricity. She thinks they're doing great. Now, this is a school we went to the next day. And it's kind of on the outskirts of Jacmel, but it's in a jungle setting. And you go past a motorbike, and you could easily be a couple of hundred years ago in terms of dropping back into time. One thing I noticed, everything is skinny or smaller than you expect it to be in Haiti. The pigs are skinny, the dogs are skinny, the chickens are skinny. Even the buildings are smaller than what you would be, you'd think. This is a classroom building for the entire school.
Bonjour.
Okay, bonjour. They're happy. They're laughing. They're well-adjusted kids, and they don't really seem to care that the third wall of their classroom is a mud bank, and the other 2 are pieces of tarp that are donated by aid organizations to do it. They're happy that they're getting an education, and they're doing the best they can. These kids today, it was time for mathematics, and they were all studying and applying themselves to math. The books are in French, and they do the best they can. They're shy, and I think they're beautiful, and what's more important, they're fed. This is one of the cooks, and she's cooking up some beans. Beans and rice are the staple of what it is that they serve the kids, or else cornmeal and rice. And she was a wonderful person. She was proud of what she was doing. Also proud of what she was doing was another cook. She told us how it gave her a sense of purpose, knowing that she could feed children. Her child, as well as the cook you saw previously, both have children that are going to this school. Both of them remember what it was like when their children didn't get anything to eat, and recognizes the difference that it does. She's very, very grateful to America and grateful to God.
That's right.
Merci. Bon dia, Venu.
Yeah, God be with you.
God be with you also. Thank you.
And their cooking hut, all right, is made out of flammable materials, and they've got an open fire and charcoal fire cooking on the inside of it. But somehow, things work out, and I don't know if they burn down, but it seems like they should.
Merci, Papa. Amen.
The children are grateful to have food, and really, if there was one bit of video that I could show that makes it all worthwhile, what Trinity Hope does, it's this. I mean, that's the difference for Haiti. It's the difference for me. This coconut was sliced off the top. It fell off the tree. It's the freshest coconut I know I've ever had because it fell off a tree in front of me. And some people thought, oh, I don't like coconut, but I did. And the guy took it with an expert slice and hacked it off and I drank it fresh, and it was absolutely delicious. And it was also very cool to be part of this group, that they knew what we were doing and we were accepted within the group. It was very special. Now these ladies that we're looking at, they are all mothers. They all have children that go to this school. I talked to all of them about if they knew hunger, and of course they all said that yes, they did. One woman described as if it was having a dog eat your stomach. And they also talked about how their vision would grow blurry simply for lack of food. And they talked about on the third or fourth day of going without food, and they get some food, well, do they eat it, or do they give it to their children that has gone as long without food as they do, and then hope that they will have food on another day? Despite all these hardships, these kids are happy. Now these kids go to the school. There's Keith. They loved him, and he loved them, and they were just very engaged. There were two groups of kids that were there. There was a break in the afternoon, kind of like vacation Bible school in the afternoon that they all came back for. These kids over on this side, most of them are barefooted. They do not go to the school. They may not go to school at all, and they probably don't eat on a regular basis. Most likely they don't eat on a regular basis. One thing that struck me is, you know, some people say, well, I joked about not liking coconut or not liking raisins or not liking this. And out of our group, people had foods that they didn't like. I poured out a handful of trail mix to every hand that's in this picture, and shared some of my dad's cookies as well. Nothing was wasted. Every scrap of food was gobbled up, because in Haiti, if you got food, you better eat it. Now we also brought a soccer ball, and these guys are pretty good. Look at the size of the goal they head toward. Boom. Now that little boy probably wasn't all that happy that we brought a soccer ball that day that got smacked into, but you got your sport jocks anywhere you go. We also played music that day. We brought a drum, and the kids were, they were happy. They had a good time. Someone's gonna get a kazoo stolen right there, okay? But we played music, we sang songs, we had games, we brought presents. It was a special day for these kids, or I hope that it was. At the close of this day, this is kind of a seaside resort, I guess, that you will, in Jacmel. And we relaxed. We had a nice ice-cold Coca-Cola, and it's a little taste of home. It tasted pretty good, but it's made in Haiti with Haitian sugar, so it was even better. We looked out, people fishing. It was a relaxing day, and I thought, this is a good place to be. Now, the next day, we were at the Oranger School, and Oranger School is a Baptist school. And it says, you see, Évangélique Baptiste de Angers. And they're like us, you know. This was the inside of their classroom facility, also kind of doubles as a church every now and then. You see that up here, there's light sockets, but no bulbs in them, because they don't have electricity.
So what time did you leave your house to get here this morning?
À quelle heure vous quittez la caillou pour arriver là?
Nous sommes là à 5 heures, oui. Nous sommes là à 4 heures, à 5 heures.
So at about 4, and she arrives at 5.
And you walk with this in the dark to come to school to start to prepare the food for the kids.
An oil lamp.
On marche avec ça pour capable joindre la lumière, pour capable faire manger pour tout le monde.
You are a godly woman.
C'est un monde que bon Dieu bénit.
And a blessing to these children.
Et comme ça, vous sont bénédiction pour tout le monde.
Merci.
She was very modest, but all the cooks were like her, tremendously dedicated. And I looked at her shoes, and she walks on a rough gravel road in just sandals that were barely hanging onto her feet. And she does that every day, where she can have a little bit of money and where her children can eat. Now, this is the cooking conditions. This is the kitchen, up over an open fire. And this is a little fancier, it's on bricks, but this is how they feed these children. It was cornmeal day today, and this is the difference that it makes for the kids. The kids get something to eat, and they dig into it. They're happy to have it. And having a full belly makes for a happy child. They were beautiful children, and they weren't shy in front of the camera. Now this is their school. This is one of their classrooms, their outdoor classrooms. You see the way that this is the smoke from the cooking fire that's drifting over. They're side by side. It was in the 80s and it was in March. You imagine what it's like now, or when it's in the peak of the summer. They do shut off for the summer. But even though it was hot, there's a sense of serenity, there's a sense of peace that I noticed with these children. Now, that was a brightly lit classroom. This was don't let the flash fool you. It lit up the flash, but there was no lights at all. It was just almost dark as can be. We heard from this young man.
When you grow up and you are an adult, what do you want to do? You want to be a pastor. Well, you're at the right school. You're learning about math, you're learning about language, and you are also learning about Jesus Christ.
Now, learning about Jesus Christ, pretty important to this young man because his adoptive father is the pastor and the principal of this school. And his adoptive father found him from screams coming from a toilet, from an open sewer where he'd been thrown away as a child. And they fished him out. And he had bugs. They said bugs in his ear, but I imagine there were maggots that were inside of his ears and his mouth. He was sick for a while, but he got better, and obviously, and now he's going to the school and he wants to be a pastor. And so he's one of these kids that were thrown away, but picked up by somebody, and he's been raised by the pastor as his own son. More singing. That's Kim singing. The kids loved her. And they sang hymns and sang songs for us. This was at the close of another really perfect day. Now, this is Ruru. This is our driver. This is the guy that has his 3 lanes, left, right, center. And we were saying on the way over, they said, well, at least we're not going over these mountain roads and it's raining. That changed, of course. Now look what we're approaching. This is Dead Man's Curve. And right there, okay, that's where rocks were, but they're not anymore. And so we had about maybe 30 miles of that, which was kind of fun. But things fall down, things fall apart, and they don't put them back in Haiti. People work in Haiti. They try to stay active. They try to do what they can. I did not really strike that they are lazy people. They are motivated. There's just no money, and they're just kind of doing the best that they can. I mean, I saw all kinds of shops that were set up in these little tent villages. I think that was selling toiletries. I didn't see a lot of business, but people were trying to set up for that. Now we're coming up here. You see, this is kind of a human pickup. The person pulling this, their job, they make their own little cart out of car axles and big tires, and then they are hired to pull loads. And sometimes it can be a really heavy load. This is just mattresses. But unfortunately, they live to be about 35. They're either hit by cars, or they're just diseased, or the work is just so hard that it kills them early. Now this is the outside of the house, the home of one of the feeding program directors, Enoch. He let us inside and he showed us around.
Yeah, this is home. This is home.
Okay.
Okay.
Enoch, how many people sleep in here each night?
Each night we have six.
Six people.
Yes.
1,
2 here.
2 here.
2 here. 1 here and 1 here.
Okay. And you have been sleeping in this tent for how long?
6 months after the earthquake.
6 months. So since June of 2010.
Yes.
Okay, so 2 years they've been like that, but he's happy. He's great because he's got a house, he's got a roof over his head. There's no air conditioning, so they can't stay in it through the daytime because it just gets too hot. But they're happy to have a roof over their head. Now, this is our group, all collected. Ruru and Lothan, and then Noel, and then Kim, Brian, Keith, and myself. We flew fabulous Tortug Air on the next day to Jeremy. This was a key, trying to make sure that we had our tickets and everything lined up. And Jeremy is right here. We're flying from Port-au-Prince, right there. We go along the coast and we go to Jeremy. This was our aircraft that took us there. And being a pilot's son, I thought it was pretty cool. This is leaving Port-au-Prince, and you see just the tin roofs that are on the buildings. And this is coming up on the coast of Jeremy, and this was our landing strip right there. This was Jeremy International Airport. And it says, "Welcome to Jeremy, the city of poets." Of course, the French had a very heavy influence here. I don't know if the French had anything to do with our luggage not making it, but that's what we're trying to pick out right here, is where our luggage was, and eventually we got it back the next day. As I said, one of the biggest businesses for Haiti is disaster relief aid. Here's a Red Cross truck loaded up with dressing and medical supplies. And I thought that this was the crescent was some sort of an Islamic Red Cross, but it's the Red Crescent and the Red Cross are synonymous. They're kind of part of the same organization. Now, Jeremy at one time was a beautiful city years ago, but you can see the architecture that was there. But when things began to fall apart, they fell apart bad. And the buildings actually do lean in like that. I thought that at first that was an optical illusion, but they really do kind of fall in on you. Now, you think, well, this is pretty nice. You know, you look, you frame the picture just right, and this is pretty, but not really. That's a ship that's been adrift for no telling how long, and they just leave it. The beach that we're passing up is covered in garbage. So it could be nice, but it's so polluted and it's so nasty that people still go out in it, but the water is polluted with garbage and sewage, incredibly. You see on my shirt, it's got the cross, you know, and I saw that, and I thought that was kind of symbolic of the way that this community is tied to the cross. I just thought that jumped out to me. Now, this is at the orphanage where we stayed.
Say hi to Mr. Rodney. Hi.
These are 2 of 22 orphans that have been picked up for various reasons, but all live as one family along with Pastor Isaac's 2 other children. That it's 24 kids, all live together, all one family, share the meals, no differentiation between the birth children and those that are adopted. And the difference it makes, I think, is pretty phenomenal. The children are just, it's a wonderful, loving family. Now, this is our next destination. We're going to go to the very tippy tip of Haiti on this end. And what we were told was that it would be just a few hours down the road. It was about 4.5 hours of this. So bounce, 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 bounce. And we went past some beautiful scenery. We went past a market where people come for miles to trade goods and services. And this was a few miles on up the road, and they were still walking, and they were on foot, and perilously close to the edge of the cliff. But they seem sure-footed, and they're confident of what they're doing. Now, we met this little girl. You see, she's got a deformed hand, but also has a Winnie the Pooh shirt on. There's a lot of American gear and garage sale gear that's wound up clothing a lot of the children in Haiti. Also, there's evidence still with the feeding program of malnutrition. See the little girl with red hair here, and I thought, oh, that's cute. She's got red hair, but it's an evidence that it's malnutrition. They say that when kids come back after the summer break, that many of them have red hair because they don't get the right kind of food to eat when they're there. Here's the cooks, hard at work. Again, they cook over an open fire. They have metal tins, and it's as basic as can be. No electricity here either. But the kids, they say their prayers, they eat their food. There's a little girl. She's not going to be malnourished for long. And here's our kids, happy and waving, and we're very glad. We had games. We had a big time on this day.
Séparez-nous avec eux, quand jour collé arrivé, les méchants vont tomber, pas bien côté pour yo cacher.
Excellent. Pastor Edgar, what was her song about?
It was about the wrath of God against the wicked people. Our people, you are bad people, please don't do what other people are doing. They are doing bad things, the wicked are doing bad things. I want you to behave because the wicked people are going to get in trouble. I'm going to give them a hard time. They won't be able to hide.
That was what her song was about.
Yeah, you, my people, don't do bad things. Do good things.
Okay, and I think that's what a generation of children are being raised to do, is to try to do good things. Now, on the way back, we ran across Haitian cowboys. Now, they don't look like ordinary cowboys because they're not. They are walking those cattle all the way to Jeremy, and it was about 25 or 30 miles that they had to go to get the cattle into Jeremy, and then they turn around and walk back. So that was their job, was get the cows to market. Now this little girl, she was at the orphanage, and her name is Gentille, and she was found, she had been thrown away. She was underneath a bush, and she was being eaten by a wild pig. Wild pig was chewing on her leg, and her screams, people passing on by. But Pastor Isaac found her, chewed away the pig, got her wounds treated, and now she's a beautiful, happy, well-adjusted girl. This little boy, his name is Jafar, and Jafar was found in a rushing river. He was fishing, had fallen in, was swept up by the current, was screaming, holding on for his life to a branch, and he was rescued. Pastor Isaac came along, found his family. His family said, "We don't want him, you take him." So what we found out about Jafar is that he's really a talented artist. And this is what he drew in my book. And that's just freehand, that's just sketching. And it's going off that picture of me and another person. Our last day was on the most scenic of all the schools. And this was perched on the edge of the ocean. And that's the school where we were. And it was an absolutely beautiful place. Perched on the cliff. It was a welcome day to go there. Play your kazoos. In great house That was all too much for me. I had to leave. I started to cry, and it still affects me. So I went off by myself for a little while to retreat and think about things, and I was on this point and looking down, and it's a long way down, and a couple of little boys came up, and I thought this was one of them, but it's not. But they came up and they motioned me back from the rock. Said, "You're in danger. Come back in their own way." And so then one of them looked at me, a little guy, just down below, just a little bit above mid-thigh. And he pointed to his mouth, he pointed at his stomach, and then he went like this, and then went like that. It touched me. I had a Nutri-Grain bar, and so I gave that to him. I said to share, and they nodded their head, and then I acted like, "Oh, I got an idea, So out of this green bag that I've got, I had a bag of banana chips, and I pulled that out, gave it to him. It was like Christmas. They were overjoyed. They ran off, ate the chips, and then one of them came back, and he hugged me. An incredible day. Now, to speak to the need that people have there, we're giving out whirligigs, okay? And they're twisty type things, you know, that you spin. And I was down on the ground wanting to pass them out. And I sensed this need of this desperation where the kids began to think that they weren't going to get a whirligig. So they were brushing and touching and really getting aggressive because it almost turned into a little bit of a mini mob scene. So that's what I was doing. I had to stand it up, and I had them hanging off my arms as I picked it up to get the whirligig. And you think, big deal, whirligig, but it's a big deal to a Haitian kid when you don't have anything, I guess. So at the end of it, this was the group that was perched on the edge of the Greater Antilles. And again, we were made to feel part of this group. Now this is Pastor Isaac. He's the man that runs the orphanage and runs the school. He's a very good man. This is one of his adopted kids. And this is the two, Jean-Thiel and Jafar, that came to us. It was a great way to end up the trip at this place where people were loved so much. I was in a blissful place, I have to say. I was overwhelmed by this trip, but I was in a happy place. Our God is never late in the execution of His word, of what He says He's going to do. That's a rough translation of this. And that's what this school, and that's what many of these people in the country live by. These kids were all lined up along the edge here, and fortunately you can't see them very well, but they were shy. And we got them to come out and take their picture. And again, that's Jafar and all the rest of the kids that live here in the orphanage, and they set us off. Now this is the road. This is the airport road. It's a little bit different driving up to most international airports. You don't encounter burros and people on foot. It's a dirt runway. The only paved runway in Haiti is the Port-au-Prince airport. Parking was pretty easy. So there we have it. It's the only airport I've ever been to where there's active foot traffic going across the runway, including this woman. How do you get to the other side of the runway? Well, you cross it. She was carrying a 5-gallon bucket of water. So that's you know, what is that, 40 pounds on her head, okay? People carried stuff on their heads with seeming relative ease. This was our pilot. The same guy that flew us there, and I guess it's his lucky towel because he flew with that. This is coming into Port-au-Prince. You see all the combination of roofs and plastic and tin. And thankfully, we were on a Czechoslovakian-made airplane. I don't know if that gave me any confidence or not. But one thing, I was awful proud to get back to the United States, okay? It made me really think about just how good we have it. This was in line at 2 o'clock in the morning in Miami. Our flight was delayed again, and I was waiting in line to get a Subway sandwich with lettuce and tomato, which you can't eat because you don't know whether someone has got collar on their hands when they handle your food. And I could drink the water, and I took a hot shower. And there are no hot showers in Haiti, I found out. So at the end of it, what do we have to conclude? And I'm sorry that I've gone over my time. But the problems in Haiti are overwhelming, but there's progress being made. You can see it in pockets, but there are things that are going forward that's being made. And I saw faith in action and faith in daily life. I saw people from Trinity Hope, godly, wonderful, dedicated people trying to do Christian things. And then faith in daily life, when you don't have anything, God is everything. And I saw that time and time again. And it was really remarkable. People that had faith, their faith was the only thing that they had. When children are thrown away, there are people, hopefully, sometimes there to pick them back up. And we certainly saw that in the orphanage where we were, and we saw it in other cases where children had been abandoned and they were adopted informally into another culture, or into another family. We live in a land of plenty. We've got it really, really good in this country. We don't even when we have it bad, we have it better than what they have in Haiti. And it doesn't cost that much to change a life. 25 cents a day is what Trinity Hope spends per child, per day, per meal. And it makes a difference between starvation, malnutrition, and inability to learn because your stomach is just hurting you so bad, all you can think about is food. TrinityHope.org is where you can go for more information. I think that everybody can make a difference, and I am so thankful to have had this experience. I'm so thankful for your support, and we're going to be producing a video that will help raise awareness for this organization, and I just appreciate your time. Thank you.